Right. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another wonderful session at the study circle of BCAS. I think it's the new year with a new bang, a wonderful event that we've organized this year, and I think the first of the year always has to be the best of the year. So I think that sets the tone in terms of how we go in the year forward. So with us today, of course, is two distinguished speakers, Nilofar and Malini. So just a brief introduction on their company and what they do. It will definitely enlighten us all, the way they've actually gone about their lives. So Ambrosian Wellbeing and Engagement Resources Private Limited is a company that offers mental well-being support among other services to corporates pan-India. Malini Shah is a practicing psychotherapist and a behavioral trainer with over 2 decades of experience in the field of training and counseling, a certified presenter from Delta College, Michigan, and facilitator from Zenger Miller, Singapore. Malini has a vast experience of counseling across diverse age groups for emotional, behavioral, and adjustment concerns. Malini is a senior counselor at Ambrosian.
Good evening, all of you.
Good evening, Malini.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Of course, with her is Nilofar Sait, a psychotherapist and a certified practitioner of MBTI and 16PF Asia Pacific region. As a trained counselor for over 15 years in the corporate field, she has had the opportunity of working with many employees and families successfully, addressing a variety of workplace concerns. Nilofar looks after strategy at Ambrosian. So we welcome you both to this wonderful session, and we look forward to hearing insights from you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And I and my colleague Malini are happy to be here. A very good evening to everyone who's listening in. Wishing all of you, like Ryan said, a very happy, healthy, and fulfilling 2021. I'm sure that all of you have set goals. All of you have got an idea of what we really want to do this year, considering that last year has been a really heavy one for all of us. So a very warm welcome to all of you to raise your happiness quotient. It seems to be a topic, I think, close to all our hearts. All of us want to achieve and aspire to achieve happiness. It's a destination. It's an end outcome of everything that we do in life. Today, we intend to take you on a short journey. I would call it a very self-reflective journey to examine and explore this elusive thing called happiness with the help of some activities, some self-reflective questions. And you can do them as we go along, or you can just make a mental note for yourself to do it later in solitude and revisit them, in your own time. We will be sharing some simple yet effective strategies for you to try in your pursuit of happiness and close with a small guided meditative practice. So what is this happiness? So allow me to share my screen and maybe we can then proceed further as I talk along. So I'll just share my screen with you and so everyone can see the presentation. Right. So what is this happiness and why do we always find it fleeting? Where do we seek it? All this and more as our session unfolds. As we move along, I want you to pause on your screen. There's a little quote that I have got here by William Feather. And the quote says that plenty of people miss their share of happiness, not because they never found it, but because they didn't stop to enjoy it. I want you to pause for a brief moment and just reflect on this quote. You don't have to share your thoughts. You don't have to tell us anything. But I just want you to think about all the times where you probably have missed your share of happiness, not because you did not find it, but because you didn't stop to enjoy it. And all of us, I would say, are guilty of this. Now, while you're reflecting, you can also see on your screen a small little golden lamp, which I call Aladdin's magic lamp. And I'm going to give this to you. And I'm going to ask you, what 3 wishes will you ask the genie? Now, you can write these wishes in a chat box. If you're comfortable sharing them with me, you can make a mental note of it. You can, just not jot it down somewhere just for your own self to think about. Anyone would like to share? Anyone would like to put it in a chat box? If it's not too private, you can do so as well. 3 wishes. So the genie is here at the start of 2021, and we are going to give you 3 wishes. Your 3 wishes will be granted for the year, for the next 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is that you find essential. All right. So while you do this and while you make a note for yourself, I'd just like to talk a little about how, since time immemorial, we always and all the time want to be happy, right? We can say it's a famous positive psychologist called Martin Seligman once visited a school, and he asked parents what they would want for their children. And interestingly, the parents said they want them to live a happy and fulfilling life. Now, the question was the education they were receiving preparing them for such a happy and fulfilling life? What are the determinants of a happy and fulfilling life? All our life, we've been conditioned to believe. Now, I want you to look at the 3 goals you have written down for yourself, or the 3 wishes that you want the genie to grant you. As I talk about this, we've been conditioned to believe that happiness comes from bigger and better things. Our culture is obsessed with wanting more. We want a bigger house. We want a prestigious job. We want to achieve awards and accolades. We want more romance in our life. We want probably a fancier car and a more exotic holiday destination for the year. And we are surrounded by messages from media and society that we need this and we can't do without it, right? We think that when our circumstances improve, we are going to be happy. And we continue to strive and hustle to keep reaching all of these things, right? Now, each person has their own definition of happiness. So before we go any further, you keep those 3 goals that you have written, and along with that, ask yourself what makes you happy and how happy are you? 2 questions for self-reflection. What makes you happy and how happy are you? Right? You can just jot the questions down. As I said, you can answer them. You can do them in your own time, and it's absolutely okay. So I'm going to pause for a few seconds here just for you to make your mental note, and then we can go further. So we've got our 3 wishes from the genie. We've got a little bit of a sense of what makes us happy and how happy we are. Now let's examine what are the determinants of happiness, right? Today, we have the best of products. We have amenities, we have gadgets, we have technology. Maybe our personal income has more than doubled since a few decades ago, yet we are not truly happy, right? And our happiness doesn't seem to last. This is because we are biologically programmed to adapt to our environment, and we do it really fast. For example, say you've been eyeing a new car and you go ahead and finally buy it. You're very excited about it. You will show it off to your friends and family. And after some time, it feels normal because the car has become incorporated into what we call your reference point, and you've become adapted to it. So the initial excitement and happiness fades. It's the same thing for money. Say, suppose today you earn X CTC, and then you want a little more, and then a little more, and then a little more. So you see that little man on a treadmill on your left on the screen. He's just going on and on and on in this endless, vicious cycle of desire, striving to get it. Once he gets it, he enjoys it, and he quickly adapts to it, leading to another desire. This is what psychologists call as hedonic treadmill or hedonic adaptation, right? And it happens to all of us for everything that we've ever owned, right? Now, the question is happiness having material possessions and wealth? Is it having colossal achievements in career and life? Is it owning things, right? So there was a Boston study which was conducted a decade ago on the super rich, and interestingly, they discovered that the super rich were very anxious, very isolated, very worried about work, love, fears for their children. And one of the saddest things that they told their children was, "Son, you will never have to work. We have so much money," without realizing that a life of worklessness However, financially settled is a directionless, aimless life without any engagement with the world. Right? Now, the truth is, there's very little correlation between academic success and career success, between career success and life success. And that is why intelligent people are not necessarily happy. Similarly, lottery winners are found to be sad a year later after winning the lottery, right? So this brings us to what really determines happiness. What are those things that we can say, we can put down and say, okay, this determines our happiness? So there was a research conducted again. And research says that circumstances, which means all the things that we strive for to make better in our life, the products, the gadgets, the things that we own, our possessions, all of this only account for 10% of our happiness, right? Genetics, that means how happy our parents were or the kind of traits that we've inherited from them, right? That determine whether we'll be happy or not, account for 50%, right? And you see that 40% there, that accounts for our habits and behaviors, right? Or you can say our actions and thoughts and feelings. So 50% you can say is actually determined by us, out of which a large chunk of 40% is determined by what we think and feel and do, and less about what we have, right? So very interesting study. They also discovered that when people are younger and they're happy, they're more likely to succeed later on in life. They are more likely to be healthy. They're more likely to get and stay married. Even when they age, interestingly, what matters is not what they achieved in their life, but how the day felt. Right? So just think about this. It's a very interesting thing. All of these studies have been done. In fact, there was another study called the Harvard Grant Study, which followed the lives of real people from childhood to old age. And they noted down that, there are 5 things, 5 lessons that lead you to a happier, meaningful life. The first one they said is love, right? Which is love really all that matters. The second, they said, staying connected and having meaningful relationships, because relationships are the horses if happiness is the cart. They said happiness is definitely more than money and power, and regardless of how we begin, we can still be happier. We need some challenges in life to continue fulfilling, right? So go back a little now and view the things that you have written, the 3 wishes you have asked for, when we offered you Aladdin's lamp. The things that you have written make you happy, or how happy you are, right? And I'm sure when we asked you these 2 questions, you would have probably examined the different areas of your life to see where exactly your happiness lies, which means that while happiness may not be related to career success or life success or academic success, it is definitely related to other areas of our life, right? And this brings us to a very interesting tool that we have chosen for you this evening as a quick self-assessment, and it's called the Wheel of Happiness. So I will request my colleague Malini to take you through this Wheel of Happiness. Malini, over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Nilofar. Nilofar has very rightly said, ki most of the time, if you have seen, it's the thoughts and our attitudes that determine our happiness, basically. And it's something within us that we can actually look into and see how we can derive on happiness. Very simple example, I had seen some video where a person has a very big house and he's not selling the house because he's not getting a good price. And one day he comes back to the house and he sees it burning, and he's very upset. He has lost his house. He has also lost a kind of an the money which he had, which he thought he would get from selling the house. And then his elder son comes and whispers to him that the house has been sold, and he's happy now. He says that, okay, now the house has been sold, so I've got the money and all, so he gets into that happy state. Again, the second son comes and says that although the house has been sold, only 10% of the amount has been given to us. So again he becomes sad. And then the third son comes and tells him that although only 10% of money has been given, the person is very honest and he wants to give the money because it is not our fault that it got caught fire. So he's ready to give the money, and again the person is happy. So when we shift from this hedonic treadmill to the wheel of happiness, we are shifting from doing things which are important to doing things which are meaningful. Right? And how do we create that meaning in our life? So the wheel of happiness originated from Tibetan Buddhism, and it's the way in which we can look at our life. It how we can make it more meaningful, how we can get more things in our life, which makes it more fulfilled and more productive, more happy for us in our different ways. And it basically focuses on this 8 areas. If you see, uh, it's not something which is very fixed. You can add in your own areas, which are more important to you. You can modify the wheel according to the areas where you get more fulfillment and contentment, or which may be important to you, right? So the 8 areas are roughly divided into your health and lifestyle, to your relationships, support, money, financial needs, love, contribution, to job satisfaction and improvement, your vision, basically, which definitely talks about your identity and growth. Apart from that, it would be your physical environment and fun and recreation. And if you see this wheel, you can do it for yourself. You could just draw the wheel, and from the center of the wheel to each area, you can see it is marked from 0, 5 to 10, right? So which denotes the level of contentment and happiness that you may have in each area. I would like you to think. I would also give you certain, prompting questions for each of these areas. But I would like you to think that on each of these areas, where exactly am I? Am I at 4? Am I at 5? Am I at 10? Am I at 9? Right. So you will have to do it. Just you can all quickly do it for yourself on a piece of paper. You can draw the circle, and roughly, you could do this 8 lines, which would be for each of the areas, and you could mark it from 0 to 10. Right? 8 to 10 would denote that you are most, very much very happy about, whatever you're doing in that particular area. 5 to 7 would indicate you are reasonable, satisfied, and 1 to 4 may indicate that you may have to find ways to be more happy. Right? So you could quickly mark on all these areas. For health, you can think about that. Do you feel you are healthy and fit, or are you satisfied with your appearance and the kind of lifestyle that you're leading? For family and network, you can definitely think, whether your family is supportive, whether you can count on your friends. Is there a lot of relationships, and you find the relationships are the way you want them to be? And do you have a personal and a professional network for yourself? Okay. For fulfillment, it could be, do you do things that you really like to enjoy? As Nilofar asked, are you happy, and are you doing things that makes you happy? Right? So do you do things which make you enjoy or make you feel that you're contributing? Uh, is there a connection between what you think internally and externally? Right? So what you exactly want and what you're actually doing in life. And do you feel love, and do you feel like giving out that care and affection, and do you feel loved in return? So then we go to vision, which is of your identity, growth, and development. So how close are you to who you are and what you want to be? Are you evolving? Are you trying out new things? Are you growing in your life? Then fun and recreation is about your hobbies. So do you have engaging hobbies, or sports? Do you laugh more often? Right. So do you laugh more often? Do you use humor, or do you have fun in day-to-day life? Are you enjoying your day-to-day life and things? Then we have your physical environment, which is your home environment and community. Right. So there it is more in terms of your the environment. Are you happy where you live? Are you happy with the things that surround you? Or do you also engage in community services and give back? Then you have your work and career. Are you satisfied with the job direction, the way your job work is going through the improvements? So how satisfied are you in your work? And does your work or career, bring you happiness? Do you have a control on the choice and direction your career is taking, and are you working towards something better? And finances is more about your financial needs, money, everything. So how do you feel about it? And do you feel that money makes you happy? And are you able to meet the financial needs, or get the things that you want, the materialistic things that you want? So has everybody marked on each of these areas? Now you could modify this to the way you want. For example, sometimes, people, instead of home environment, they would, basically put doing something for people or community services. Right? So whatever is more relevant to you, that you could mark on. Right? Sometimes in family and network, one more area that they do is about with children. Right? So one more area could be my relations with my children. Are they satisfactory? Do I derive a sense of happiness and satisfaction from it? Right? Is there a good communication and bonding? So another area could be on that. So anything that is more important to you, that could be added on, that could be modified out here. Right? And now I would want you to join all the dots which you have connected. Wherever you have given a ranking, right, from there you could start and join the next area. For example, you have started with health, and your thing on health may be 7 8. You can join it with family, you could join it with fulfillment, whatever you have marked. Right? So you create a kind of a web. Now notice, is there a peak? Is there a area where there is a peak, and is there an area where there is a drop? Right? There's a valley. Right? Is it consistent on all areas, or is it different on all areas? Right? Is there a very high peak and a low drop? Are you working on those areas? Anybody would like to share? In the chat option, you could write it down. Is everybody's web the same, consistent, or is there a peak? Is there a drop? There might be a drop of 1 point, so it may be a near consistency, or it is different in all the areas. If it is same, that seems to be good. We can still work on it. We can still look forward to more activities that can help us to enjoy. If it's same in the lower areas, right? If it's at 3 4, then definitely we need to look into it, and we need to put in more efforts to work on it. 5 to 7, as I mentioned, is reasonably satisfied, and 8 to 10 is I'm really happy. Right? So in those zones, it is fine. But if you are in 5 to 7, you can still bring it to 8 to 10. And if you are in 1 to 4, 0 to 4, then you still need to bring it up. Just some questions that you can think about. It's a very self-reflective tool, and you could do this. Maybe you could do this every 6 weeks to 2 months, and see the changes by bringing in certain activities. But just you can reflect that were there any surprises for you in this? Secondly, if you have given a particular score, why did you score in that way? Is there something that you could do more about it, or why have you scored in that particular way? Anybody would like to answer? You can just jot it down in the chat option. If you have scored something, why did you do it in that way? Did something surprise you, everybody? Were there any surprises? Try to see your scores every 2 months, and then try to see it after 6 months and after a year, right? What exactly is your score? So let's say if I want to be at 9 on all the areas, right? So what do I need to do to get there? So if my ideal score maybe after say a year or 6 months is 9 or 8 or maybe even 10, right? So what are the actions that I need to actually take to reach there? And currently, what are the things that are stopping me to make those actions? What are my detriments? What are my obstacles that are, not helping me to progress and put in actions in that particular direction to take my happiness score towards 10 in all those areas, right? So a very little bit of introspective questions that you can think about. And it's very important to understand that although we want to be happy, there are many roadblocks, there are many I would say speed breakers, which actually stop us from actually achieving and feeling happy about certain things, right? And there are certain obstacles, which can come towards our roadmap to happiness. So once we understand where we are currently and where we need to progress, right? And if I want to make the actions, then let me also understand that what are certain things that may stop me from reaching that ideal score, right? So this brings us to a very, very important topic, that what are the obstacles to happiness and how do we overcome them, right? So we go on to our next very, very important thing which is coming up, that is in terms of our obstacles to happiness, and that is the next slide, which we will be working about, right? So we have described it in a very simple way as poke and plug. Right? So Nilofar would take you on through this. Again, we both would be co-facilitating. So Nilofar, over to you.
Thank you, Malini. So as Malini said, and I think that I'm sure that self-reflective tool would have helped you to sort of understand where you stand and how you value your happiness in the different areas. Now, if you see on every slide, we've put a little red balloon, right? So there is a reason that we have done that. And we've used the metaphor of a balloon to describe happiness, right? Simply because if you look at a balloon, what it does is it lifts us up, it elevates us, it floats and takes us to a better place, right? And I could say that I'm sure all of you would agree that when we are happy, we have similar feelings. We feel lifted up, we feel elevated, we feel like we are floating. And everyone knows when we have this balloon of happiness that we are happy, right? The bigger it is, the more happier we are. But the question is, how do we keep filling it? Or what do we prevent it from getting holes, right? So how do we prevent the leakage? How do we prevent it from getting deflated, right? So your habits and your behavior is what impacts the balloon size, or your happiness, the size of your happiness, and its potential for developing holes, right? You have to do more of the habits and behaviors that increase its size and reduce those that may poke a hole, right? So we've given this analogy of poke and plug, two acronyms we've used, and you'll understand why we have done that, right? So the first thing that actually is an obstacle to your happiness, or that pokes, your balloon of happiness, is something called perpetually devaluing your happiness. Now, while happiness is one of our most important goals, most of us underrate it, devalue it, minimize it, right? And how do we do this? So there are three ways in which we do this. The first and foremost is by holding negative beliefs. We think that happiness makes us lazy. We think that if we are happy, we are being selfish, or we think that happiness is fleeting. But the truth is completely opposite, that we are likely to be more creative, more productive, more nicer to people when we are feeling happy, right? Think about a time when you were happy and you interacted with someone close, or when you completed a task. I'm sure you will agree that happiness actually helped you to do it better. The second way in which we perpetually devalue happiness is by not defining it, right? So whether it's fleeting or not depends on how clearly I can see it or how I can define it. I'll give you an example here. Suppose you're traveling to a different state and you're living in a small little hotel, and you run out of shampoo and you walk to the nearest supermarket to buy the shampoo. What you realize is that you find one bottle which has everything written clearly in English, and the other one is in a language that you can't understand or clearly read. Chances are that you're likely to buy the first bottle simply because you can see the ingredients, you can process what's in it. And the same way, we devalue happiness if we are not clear or we can't see it, right? We don't know what it means to us, right? The third way that we devalue happiness is by sacrificing it for other things. Now, what are those other things that we sacrifice it for? So we sacrifice it for money, for fame, for relationships. Again, here I'll give you with the help of a small example, right? So suppose you, in a relationship, They say that you can be either happy or you can be right, but you cannot be both, right? Most people sacrifice happiness for being right. So an example here I would like to state is, suppose you had a friend who was recently diagnosed with diabetes, and you advise this friend to repeatedly make certain lifestyle changes like diet, exercise, but the friend never follows it, right? One day you meet this friend and the friend tells you that he's got a new golf buddy who's motivated him to adopt a healthy lifestyle, and he narrates all the things and plans that he wants to do, and you realize it's the very same thing you've been telling him for so many months. Right? Now you can get angry at him, right? Telling him that the other person isn't telling you anything new, right? Or you can congratulate him on being motivated towards the goal. The second option is likely to help you maximize your happiness, right? Now, coming to money, right? I'll give you another example here. So see, suppose you went to the market to shop for some fruits, and your fruit vendor is selling bananas and mangoes a kg at 1,000 rupees each, right? What are you likely to buy? Think about this. So 1,000 rupees a kilo for banana and 1,000 rupees a kilo for mangoes, right? Chances are that even if you prefer banana over mango, you're still likely to buy the mangoes. And why is that? Because we usually buy something worth the value of our money. And what have we done here? So if there's someone who's like bananas, what have they done? They have sacrificed their happiness of enjoying a fruit over the other, right? So the second option, if you went and if you decided you'd actually choose bananas, that means you are likely to maximize your happiness, right? Now, when we're talking of money, right, again, a lot of people, a lot of us, I'm sure sometimes in our life, we have taken up high paying yet very stressful jobs. And we've done it because we want financial security. We've done it because we want to postpone happiness till all our debts are paid and all our other goals are achieved, right? Interestingly, money is not a goal, right? At all. Money is what money does, which is it helps you to buy things. It helps you to buy a car, a house, pay for a trip, make an investment, make a saving, and that's all that the goal of money is all about, right? So how do you plug this hole? How do you prevent yourself from perpetually devaluing your happiness? So what we've called it here, and we've said that it means you prioritize but don't chase happiness, right? When I prioritize happiness, first and foremost, I need to define it. I need to consciously take happiness enhancing decisions. So there are certain things here that I have written down in a list, ascribing happiness to different kinds of feelings. And I say that happiness can be a feeling of calm. Happiness can be a feeling of joy. It can be a feeling of interest. For some people, happiness may be sensory pleasure. For some people, it may be feeling superior to others. For some, it may be mastery of an art, craft, or skill. For some, it may be a feeling of love. And for some, it may be a feeling of abundance, right? Now, you can choose. So you have this list in front of you, and you can pick and choose what happiness is defined as for you, right? And each person, the reason that we are not really, probably stressing too much, even though when people are not too willing to share their responses, is simply because we understand that happiness is unique and individual for each person, a different experience, a different definition. So you can look at these feelings and probably pick from them and write down 3 things that you feel lead you to feel happy in the way that you have defined it. Right? So 3, if happiness for you means a feeling of calm, what are the 3 things that lead you to feel calm? If happiness means a mastery of a skill or an art or craft, what are those 3 things that you feel you do that lead you to feel happy in the way that you have defined it? Very, very effective. And it's also something that you can note down and you can try. Right? So moving on to the next obstacle, right? So we said poke and P we have completed, and now we are going to move on to O, right? So the second thing which pokes your balloon of happiness or is an obstacle to your happiness is always obsessing over success, right? We always do this throughout our careers and throughout our academic and career and professional paths. We are always chasing superiority, right? And how do we chase superiority? We always want to be the best one, the better person, right? We compare ourselves with others. We want to be more rich, more beautiful, more famous, more successful, more talented, right? Now, of course, even think about it, the comparisons last not just in young age, but even right up to middle age, where we look around probably and we look at our peers and then we realize, oh, but we haven't really achieved as much as them. Right now, comparisons are important and they're also good. Why are they good? Because they give us approval. From the time we were children, we've been conditioned to believe and compare ourselves to others. Think of the time when you went to school and your teacher probably compared the rest of the class to one person, who came first. So we've learned comparisons. They get us approval from our parents, our teachers, our mentors, from society. They also are an indicator that we are moving towards mastery, which is an important goal for every human being, right? Being a master of your skill. They also enhance the way we feel about ourselves. So they give us a boost in self-confidence. They give us a freedom to behave in a certain way. For example, someone who's a boss may realize and feel that he has greater autonomy than his subordinates, right? But the flip side of comparisons is they also cause you to become self-centered, envious. You're all the time chasing. You become materialistic. You may be lonely. You may be disliked by others if you start living your life by comparisons. And all of this has a negative impact on our happiness. The pressure to perform, because I'm all the time obsessing to be successful, and the resultant stress actually lowers my productivity, actually lowers my chances of success in intellectual and creative tasks. So how do I change this, or how do I plug this hole, right? So Viktor Frankl in 1946 wrote a famous book I'm sure all of you are aware of, and it was called Man's Search for Meaning. And he wrote in this book all about his experiences in the Nazi concentration camp. But one of the main points of the book was, he said that even in the most difficult circumstances that a person encounters, as long as they can derive meaning, life is very fulfilling. Right? So very interesting. So the plug here, the L letter stands for locating your flow, or locating what gives you meaning, right? A very recent study also conducted by another famous positive psychologist called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi said that people are happiest when they're engaged in something they find meaningful, or when they are in the flow. So it's the exact opposite of chasing superiority. Flow enhances your happiness, makes you likable, helps you to achieve mastery and success, right? So you think about all those famous artists who've probably spent thousands and thousands of hours mastering their craft, right? And they're really happy about what they have achieved, right? Because they become an expert in that domain, right? So a good metaphor here would be a metaphor of a river. So when you think of a river, it's got in its mind a destination, right? And it's moving towards that destination. No matter, there are rocks in its path, there are bends and twists in its path, there's probably a fallen tree, right? So similarly, just like the river, when we are in a flow, we are confident about where we are going. We are very certain that we are going to achieve whatever we want without being affected by the obstacles. We also lose track of time because we are so focused in enjoying this activity, right? Another example I think which I can draw here is, suppose if you're watching a cricket match and you know that Dhoni is going to hit a six, and you realize that Dhoni in his mind is probably looking at the ball in slow motion, and he is so focused on hitting a six. And when you're in the flow, you pull other people into your orbit. So imagine yourself sitting in the audience, and when Dhoni is about to hit a six and that intensity of the match, it actually captures the entire audience's attention, right? Now, a lot of people ask, what is flow? How do I know what is flow, right? They say that flow is the midpoint of what you enjoy doing and what you're good at. Right? So ask yourself, what is it that you enjoy doing and what is it that you're good at? The midpoint of that is actually your state of flow, right? If you still need a little more clarity, a few reflective questions here, right? So you can ask yourself, what comes to mind when you think of the word flow, right? So all of this that I have described just right now in the last few minutes, if you have to think of what gives you flow, what comes to your mind? What activities help you get there? Or what hobbies and sports can you reconnect with to find your flow, right? Very important questions. Flow is also very relaxing. So it is not at all pressurizing. It's something, since it's something that we enjoy, we don't mind spending hours and hours investing in it, right? So locate your flow, and in place of obsessing over success, and in order to get over two obstacles that we have highlighted right now. So what I'm going to now do is I'll ask Malini to take over the remaining two objects, the remaining two obstacles, and then probably we can move into an exercise of building meditative practice. So Malini, over to you for keeping control.
Thank you so much, Nilofer. The third obstacle, as I mentioned, okay, it's basically in our mind, and most of the time with our thoughts and our, way of looking at situations. So the third one is more about, keeping control. Like, uh, is it, are we able to be free enough to make the choices that are important to us, right? And are we able to look into that? Right? So suppose, are we able to have control over the outcome, or are we able to control, have control over others? For example, I'm dieting and suddenly my child has given me a fried stuff to eat, right? And I would say that only if he would stop giving me this, then my dieting would go well, right? So it is basically where we are trying to control somebody else, or we are trying to control anybody. It could be our family relations, it could be our colleagues, it could be our friends, pets, right? So basically, keeping control is something also that could be an obstacle, because we are always looking on either a favorable result, or we are looking at if somebody stops doing something, then I can be happy. If only my child gets good marks, I'll be happy. If only my spouse is nice to me, I will be happy. So I'm mostly trying to get my happiness when others are doing a particular thing, and that is when means that we are in control over others, right? So everybody has to behave in a particular way, then only I can be happy. And it actually keeps us more preoccupied, because we are not really able to have that sense of control over others, because everybody's thoughts, perceptions, and mind state are different, and everybody would come from their own perception and thinking, right? We also sometimes want to control the environment and the outcomes, that is the results, right? For example, it would be that like I want a perfect kind of a process. I want a perfect kind of a work. So I'm basically more perfectionist. I get into unrealistic expectations from self. Right? In the pandemic, also, we had seen that there are times when people have gone into that level where they feel that that should keep everybody happy, right? And whatever I do should, make others happy. So I have to get into the practice of making others happy and doing things for them. So basically, it is also the desire to control the results or the outcomes. And this would also mean that, wherever I go, whatever I'm doing, things should be perfect, things should be proper, things should be, in the exact way that I want. Right? So it is basically, it would also again mean that it may not happen. For simple example, I go for a holiday and everything is fine. The hotel is fine, everything is fine. But suddenly, there is a power failure, and the generator is out of system, and the power failure doesn't get rectified in a specified time period. Right? I can't control that outcome. I cannot control that part of the story. Right? But when there's a power failure, I can just go out and enjoy, and come back, enjoying the scenery till things settle down there. So I can look for different choices that I can make in that particular situation that can keep me more happy. So instead of getting more frustrated, disappointed, and feeling helpless, I can think of choices that can actually keep me more happy, and that can actually keep me more moving ahead. And that's where basically we call about, when we try to keep control over others, or when we try to keep control over the outcomes, it is a kind of a poke, it's a kind of a pin which gets pricked into your happiness balloon, and that's again going to not help you in the long run. At the same time, it's also important that we understand certain things that can be looked in ourselves. Certain other choices that we can do that can help us give that sense of control, and also the freedom that we want in being happy. So how do we try to sometimes plug this, because this can affect your health, it can affect your relationships, it can also affect your emotional mind state. So sometimes the decisions are made in a very emotional state of mind, and that can also affect our state of mind and make us desire to control more and more things, right? So when we plug it, if you see the word you, right, very famous thing, if I point a finger at others, three are pointing to me, right? So if I want happiness, I am responsible for my happiness. If I want to be enjoying, I am responsible for getting that joy in my life. If I want to go ahead and do certain things, I am responsible for getting that in my life, right? So you are responsible for your happiness, because there's a very famous saying by Milton, that the mind can make heaven out of hell and also hell out of heaven. So, how do we take personal responsibility, and how do we master our thoughts? How do we master our feelings? This is something which is very, very important. Instead of trying to control others or the outcomes, we can definitely try to look inside and try to focus on our thoughts and try to manage them. Right? For example, if I go outside and it's raining, it would not affect me if I carry the weather inside my mind. No matter whatever is the weather, no matter whatever is the environment outside. There's very famous word or a line which I always tell myself is that a smile a day keeps troubles away. And if you carry the sunshine in your mind, no kind of weather is going to affect you. So carry the sunshine in your mind, try to smile more and keep troubles away, because that is something which is totally in your hands, which you can do. And that is something where I can take more responsibility and onus for my own sense of happiness. Also try to understand that what kind of situations keeps you angry or frustrated, right? Or maybe even sad. So try to little bit think about it, that if I'm feeling angry, what are the situations which can make me angry or frustrated? Apart from that, what are the steps that I can take up so that I can create positive moments and I can recollect them, right? Like how you have your photograph memories, you could even write down happiness moments, a diary. So when you write this happiness moments, whenever you go back through these moments, it can recollect and bring back that same sense of happiness. What are the three steps that I can take for a healthier lifestyle, right? So how do I get into becoming more healthy, right? How do I exercise? How do I eat right? How do I get enough steps? Sleep also, which can keep me more happy. And how do I interact with people, and how do I communicate, that can also keep the anger, frustration and sadness away, right? So small things, not big things, like there is a word which is called kaizen, which means continuous improvement and continuous small improvements, right? So what are certain simple practices in my life which I can get, which can create a healthy lifestyle? And how do I actually look into the areas which I can control and which I cannot control? So what are the three areas in my life which are in my control? What are the three areas in my life, no matter whatever I do, will never be in my control? So once I designate these areas, then I know that these are in my control, and I look into those things which are in my control, and I take the onus and the responsibility for bringing that joy and happiness back into my life. Right. So we have given this three very simple steps for you to introspect on. Right. What situations keep you angry, frustrated, and sad? What steps you can take for a healthier lifestyle? Right. Like I can eat a hearty breakfast, or maybe I can snack healthy, right? Instead of reaching out for fried things, or I can take a walk in the house, right? So it's something, which is something which can make things more easier, and what areas you can and you cannot control. This is one. The next which we go is in terms of everyday mindlessness. Right? Mindful is opposite to mindlessness. Mindlessness is my mind is on a holiday and it's wandering, but it's wandering in all the directions, and it's collecting all that dust and everything, and bringing and storing it in my mind. Right. So everyday mindlessness. It is said by Aristotle that happiness was the chief good, the end towards which all the other things aim. Right? And it's also very important that everything starts in your mind and ends in your mind. So we want to be happy, it's like, this is more like, we are trying to tie up things, right? So I can be happy, right? My happiness is dependent on a big house or a branded car or a branded clothes, or maybe, a decent, high paying job, right? So this is the main crux about my happiness. So all my happiness is definitely dependent on this. In a session I was doing some years back, somebody mentioned that when I was earning in four figures, I was much happy, and right now the amount is 50 times more than what I'm earning. But still, that happiness which I got when I was earning that is never there with me, right? So it is not about materialistic thing. It's not about money. It's not about possessions that keeps us happy. Happiness is always connected to what we are doing and how much do we actually are passionate about it, and also about our moment to moment experiences, right? So what is it that I'm doing right now? I'm aware about it, right? And I'm trying to bring that, okay, I'm aware that I'm feeling okay, not okay, and I'm trying to work towards that and try to overcome that. So sometimes when we are too much of into preoccupation, or too much of rumination, too much of overthinking, sometimes overthinking can always lead to paralysis, right? So too much of regrets, too much of guilt, too much of resentment from the past, if we all store this, if you store acid in a bottle, it corrodes the bottle. So all this is like acid. If we are storing this in our mind, it's definitely going to corrode it, and definitely going to affect us. So mindlessness is something that you're thinking about a vacation when you're working, or maybe you're also, while working, you're thinking about what's cooking for dinner, or if I'm shopping, I'm thinking that I'm looking fat or I've lost my hair. Yeah, so it is basically my mind is wandering, but it is not helping me because it is not getting useful things for me, right? And also it tends to make us feel more negative when we ruminate. We bring, if you go back sometimes and you think, when you think about certain events in your life, sometimes there are many possibilities that we go back to the negative experiences more, right? Because it picks up the negative experiences, and we keep on thinking about it. Ki somebody spoke to me like this, or this has happened, right? Or this in future I need to work towards it, so there's an anxiety about it, right? Or maybe something happened, and somebody was rude, or somebody shouted, or somebody judged, and they are feeling upset about it. So we actually think about losing that person. So there are so many negative things that keep on coming up, and it basically interferes in our happiness state of mind. It is said by research that almost 47% of the time people are thinking about something else other than what they are currently doing. And actually, this also leads to a chain of thoughts which can keep you binded, and that doesn't make you feel free. And it is also important that sometimes we get stuck up in these thoughts too much, that we are losing out on certain important happiness states in our day-to-day life. A grandmother had shared this, that her grandson their grandson had just started walking, and she was very happy and observing. And she called out to the husband, and he was talking on the phone, on the mobile, or he was watching something. But he started laughing, and she thought that he had seen the grandson walking. And after some time, when she spoke to him, that how did he walk, and he fell down but he got up again. She said, what are you talking about? And she said that our grandson had just put his first steps, and I called you out, and I thought that you were watching him. He said, no, I was in my mobile, and I was just reading certain things, and laughing about it. So small moments, small happiness moments, we definitely miss out when we get into this mindless. It's called like a chatter. Something is going on in our mind, and it keeps us totally occupied. Now how do we plug this, right? It's very important to plug this, because it is again that we get into this by again, as I mentioned in the previous, we are responsible for our happiness. So we are responsible for creating our happiness by creating a garden of mindfulness, right? Garden analogy is very, very important, because If you see that when you have a garden, you need to put in your you need to work towards it, you need to make your efforts to keep the garden fine, you need to trim off the things, you need to actually look into and tend to the plants and the flowers or whatever you have grown. So there is continuous efforts and work which is required to keep and maintain that garden. So a garden of mindfulness is also very, very important, that we have to make continuous efforts, right? We have to sort out the things which are not required. Like even in the garden, when you have weeds, you need to remove them out, right? Even you have leaves with certain insects, you need to remove them out. So we need to actually understand that what things are important in our life and what things are not important, and we need to weed them out, we need to take them out of our mind, because they may be, as I mentioned, a roadblock, they may be a speed breaker to our getting that happiness. So let's take an example that you had a very difficult client, right? And maybe you don't want to lose the client and you got a little bit upset. But now, in a mindful situation, what would you do is that you would just allow to become aware about the feelings, accept them, observe them, and just let them pass by. So you don't get attached to the feelings. You just observe that I'm upset, I'm frustrated. You observe it, you accept it, and you just allow it to pass by without you paying more attention or thinking about it. So when we talk about mindfulness, it is about being more aware about the present moment, uh, the moment to moment experiences that you may have. And it is proved that mindfulness is very, very important to improve your emotional state of mind, sleep. It also brings down a lot of physical ailments, complaints. It also reduces the anxiety, keeps you more concentrated, focused, and also lighter and relaxed. So overall, it reduces your stress, and it also makes you feel more happy from within. Right? So you have those endorphins which get secreted, which keep you. I'm sorry, it is basically your endorphins along with your serotonin, which keeps you more happy when you actually get into mindfulness. So mindfulness is about, let's say I have a difficulty with a relationship, but I'm focusing more on those areas and trying to see how I can look into it, what are the areas that I can go throughout it. So we have got a very beautiful strategy which is called as gratitude, grace, right, which can actually help you to cultivate this garden, right? So it stands for gratitude, which is G. Moment to moment thankfulness, whatever you have got in your life, being thankful for that, being grateful for that. You could write down a thankful note to somebody in your family, anybody, and you could let them know about it. So this is something which can also help you to maintain connections. It also helps you to reach out if there's any misunderstanding, if there's any communication hassles, it also reduces. When you actually go up and say thanks to somebody, it actually reduces a lot of miscommunication and misunderstanding. I think thank you and sorry are very beautiful golden words, which we can always bring in our vocabulary and use it also more often, right? So it is very, very important. So one activity which you can think about here is that think of a person you will write a thank you note to, listing all the reasons why you feel that they had a positive influence on you. Right? So think about a person, anybody whom you would like to write a thank you note, and write down all the reasons why you would want them to think about, that they had a positive influence on you. So the second one is revel in the experience. So this is a very famous saying by, again, Thich Nhat Hanh, and he said that walking on water or in thin air is a miracle, but the real miracle is not to walk in water or in thin air, but to actually walk on the earth, which means that enjoy, or it means that think and enjoy and actually be more where you are. It means stay grounded, basically. Walking on the earth means stay grounded. Look at the bountiful nature, the things which are given to you, the resources which are available to you, and try to savor that experiences or enjoy the flavor of those experiences. For example, you are in this session now, and after the session, somebody just puts in front of you a favorite food item, and you would just relish the taste and you would just savor it. So it's the same way that whatever experiences come in our life, let's enjoy the flavor and let's relish it. Let's feel more good about it, and also create those happiness memories in our mind. Right? So basically, it is all about creating those happy moments and also trying to use those happy moments whenever you're feeling upset or down, and also trying to uh, get into it and understand it more in a deeper way. So what you could do here is think of a very good and savoring experience from the past. You can just close your eyes and imagine that experience, that moments. Enjoy and see what was the environment, what was the details, who was with you, the colors, the schemes, where were you, what were things going on. And then to this experience, add on another one. Right? We call it flooding. So we are actually flooding our mind with positive memories. So add on a very different, again, positive moment to this experience, right? Connect it and again go more into depth, and again create another third experience and get, chain it up with this. Right? So chaining or flooding is very, very important because it helps you to connect, related experiences, and also it starts building up in your mind a web of positive associations. Right? The third one for the garden is A, right? That is assess your enough. When you know that you don't need all the things, right? There is a very thin difference between a want and a need, right? And a need and something that I really want, or something that I'm really looking forward to. So want, need, and something that I'm really looking forward to, there are three different things. So I need to assess that whatever I have or whatever I need, I have it enough. And also that there are certain things that I may not need. So it's fine enough. Whatever I have, I'm fine. I'm comfortable. As I mentioned in the wheel of happiness, I'm contented with whatever I have and whatever I wish to do about it, or the way I spend my time, energy, finances, resources, right? Because it's actually allowing me to revel in the beauty and whatever I'm getting through it. Okay? So this is something which is very, very important. And assess your enough is something that will keep me more satisfied. It's just a contentment. That's it. That's it. So there was an experiment I would share. There's an experiment which was done that a lot of people were asked that if they have a particular amount of money, what is that amount of money that is going to help them keep happy? And somebody had mentioned different amounts, and one person had just mentioned about around in 20 or 30,000, because that's exactly what I need to survive and other things are fine, and I can enjoy it and I'm fine with it. I'm happy with it. So whatever is enough for you, right, that is something which is very, very important. So what you can do is here that what are you actually, if you just take the analogy of a cup, right? It takes more to fill the cup when you increase the size of the vessel, right? So gratitude is again in two stages. One is filling the cup and the other is spilling over to make people happy. So how can you keep others happy, right? What am I collecting in my cup? What is my vision or dream? And how do I know that my cup is filled? And how do I actually spill and I reach out to others? That is something that we can actually think about. We come for compassion for self. That is the next one, right? Self compassion or compassion for self, accepting ourselves, and also accepting ourselves even when we are doing things in a different way, when we have not done things well, right? So this is something which is very, very important. And self compassion is also about, when things are going badly, how do I think about it, and how do I actually use my other as I mentioned, the experiences or gratitude and all, so that I can come to the present moment. So one thing which you can do here is write a letter to yourself, from the perspective of a very compassionate friend. And the last one is engaging in the present moment. So it's an awareness about the present moment. What am I doing and why am I doing it? This is something which is very, very important, because this will actually keep me in that thinking mode, and it will also actually help me to understand what is it important. Like if I'm on the mobile, for example, a lot of people talk about social media today, but if I'm on the mobile and I understand that what am I doing and why am I doing, right? I would understand that it's important that I've already finished a lot of my work and I don't need to be on my mobile. I can spend time with my family. I can spend time reading or doing something else. Or I can even retire for the bed, if it is late night where I'm on with my mobile. So I can actually understand that what am I doing in the present moment, whether it is important, not important, and how I can actually overcome the things which are not important. So we can build this, by moment to moment experience. And this would also allow us to enjoy beauty. It would also allow us to feel good about ordinary things. Right? Big things happen once in a while, but enjoying each and every day, enjoying the each and every moment of the day, that is something which is very, very important, which is you're engaging in the present. So this can also help you to feel more flexible. It can also make you get from the macro to the micro wise, where you could actually focus on subtle things, right? Not on the bigger things, but even on the subtle things. Like I'm, I'll give a very simple example because I think we all can relate to it. A very difficult day, and I come back home, and sometimes that irritation spills over. If you take the cup analogy, what is there in my cup? Do I need it to spill over or not? I can think about it. If I don't want it to spill over, what is it that I can do once I reach back home so that my irritation is not getting rubbed onto the others in the house? So I may just take a moment and calm myself, and come back to my family in a different way. So all these five things, gratitude, revealing the experience, assessing your enough, compassion for self, and engaging in the present would be very, very helpful in cultivating your garden of happiness. And I'm leaving it to Nilofar for the last exercise on how do we actually use this engaging in the present. So one simple, very mindfulness technique, which she would demonstrate with you for this. So over to you, Nilofar.
Thank you so much, Malini. And I hope you found whatever we shared meaningful. I hope that you will take away and remember that we need not poke our balloon. Instead, we should plug the holes. And I hope that you remember that mindfulness is not a magic wand, but it's rather a garden which you can cultivate with grace. So, with this, I'd like to lead you to a small meditative practice which is intended to build presence. And all I request you to do is to just be here with me, to follow my instructions, and to stay relaxed as possible as you can. Right? So we'll begin this activity, and I'll ask you and invite all of you to stay comfortable, to sit as relaxed as you can, as comfortably as you can, planting both your feet on the floor, having your back touch your chair, keeping your spine as straight as possible, and gently closing your eyes. Now, gently turn your focus inwards with a deep breath, starting at the top of your head. Allow your attention to move down to your scalp, your face, your neck and shoulders, an area where many of us carry tension. Gently scan your body for any tightness, stiffness, soreness, pain. Simply, consciously let it go. Now slowly relax your body part by part, from your head to the tips of your toes. Moving down from the neck and shoulders, your arms, your chest and back, your stomach and torso, your groin and thighs, your knees, your legs, your feet. Slow down, taking your own pace, allowing your body to completely and totally relax. Notice how your attention automatically goes to your breath. Each breath, the first sign of presence. Now observe your breath as it gently comes in when you inhale, as it signals the gentle rise and fall of your belly. You are just noticing, simply being present with your breath as it flows in and out. Notice how you're feeling inside, how you're moving towards a deeply relaxed state, how your breath is rhythmic with its in and out, rise and fall. Now pay attention to your mind. Notice your mind, clear, calm, and quiet. The second sign of presence. Bring your attention to the books in your mind. What are the thoughts, the scripts, the pages and chapters that are open? Simply notice what is going on for you. I invite you to gently close those books, the pages, the chapters, the scripts, one by one. Kindly, gently, firmly, with an intention to let your mind return to a clear, calm, and quiet state. Now bring your attention to your chest, focusing on your heart, feeling its warmth as it beats away, pumping in your chest. How amazing is this organ? Beating from the day you were born. The third signal of presence is an open heart. I invite you to open your emotional heart, allowing it to receive the feelings of those around you, allowing it to reveal your feelings in a heart-to-heart connection. Now bring your attention to your senses, allowing yourself to focus, sharpen your senses, pick up the signals around you. What are the sounds, the sensation of your feet on the floor? Perhaps an aroma of a hot cup of tea. Be fully aware that you're using your sensory compass as the fourth signal of presence. Now bring your attention to the energy field expanding around your body, your unique energy field or aura. Slowly expand it, feel it filling the space and room around you. This warm ball of inclusive energy is the fifth signal of presence. Allow it to be magnetic, embracing everyone, feeling its powerful vibration, attracting the best of abundance from your environment. You have now experienced the foundation of a relaxed body, a rhythmic breath, a clear, calm mind, an open heart, a sensory compass, and a warm, inclusive energy field. As you allow yourself to drop into this presence, noticing the changes in your internal state, what are you feeling inside? What does presence feel like? Experience these moments fully. Realize that you can drop yourself into this reservoir of presence whenever you need, for as long as you need. Recognize this reservoir of presence lies within you. In this state of presence, I ask you to repeat these affirmations in your mind. The reality of this moment is in the here and now. The reality of this moment is that I have nothing to resist. My gut is relaxed. The reality of this moment is that I have nothing to chase. My heart is relaxed. The reality of this moment is that I have nothing to fear. My mind is relaxed. The only reality of this moment is that I am here and now, allowing my moment-to-moment experience to unfold, allowing the fields of abundance to be attracted by my energy. I now invite you to slowly return your awareness to the room. Slowly taking a few deep breaths in and out, gently inhaling and exhaling. Slowly and gently, when you're ready, open your eyes. Right, thank you so much. I think you were a wonderful audience. And this is our organization. We have some social handles. You can follow us and read some tips and resources on mental health, well-being. And what I'll do now is I will stop sharing so that we could give this evening a good close. I have placed some of the exercises for all of your reference, especially the last part of grace, so that all of you can pick them up and do them in your own time.
If you have any questions, you could ask if you want.
Yes, any questions, please feel free to ask. You can ask in Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati. You have 3 languages. So yes, Tripti, I think you raised your hand. Would you like to ask or say something? If you have feedback for the session, please also do that. We'd be very happy to hear from you.
Trupti, you have raised your hand. You want to ask something, you could unmute and ask us. You could, if you want, you could even put it down in the chat option.
Okay, someone's asked Malini in the question answers.
Okay.
Are you reading that?
Yeah.
How do we weed out the thorns from the garden? Very nice, interesting question.
Definitely, I would say that weeding out is there are 2 ways. One is actually weeding it out, and one is it's like a kind of an importance. So suppose if something is not important, I may not pay attention to that. If you take a rose, it's like, if you take a rose, you will always have thorns with the rose, right? But when we look at the rose, we forget about the thorns. So trying to see that's why it is all about, the grace part, because it's more about what are the things that I have that I can actually look forward to, what are important to me, and how do I actually look into those areas. And the second part is letting go. Like, when we talked about mindfulness also, it actually allows you to let go of things, right? So many times we are carrying on and we are taking a lot of things with us, but if you are able to let it go, and if you are just
Oh, I think Malini just got dropped out. All right, so yes, I think she's connecting back. You're on mute, Malini.
hear me. So it's basically a very simple practice. As you get up in the morning to look forward to a good day, and as you retire for the day, also you could just look forward to things that are, that went well in the day. A very simple practice, but in an everyday basis, if you're going to practice, it's also going to keep you more focused on the things which have gone well, and automatically then the weeds become unimportant and they actually are, passed by. You're not able to look into it. You want to add on something, Nilofar?
Yeah, I think what you said made a lot of sense. I would also say that maybe if you went one step backwards just to see what are those weeds, or recognize what are the weeds or thorns, because without recognizing that what they actually constitute for you, right, you would not know how to weed them out. So I would say, along with those practices that Malini had suggested, maybe, just step back a little, look at it, and what do you consider them to be? What are those things in your life or in your garden which you feel are the weeds or the thorns? Any more questions? Anyone would like to put in something in chat? Anyone would like to share their feedback of today's session? Like I said, please feel free. आप हिंदी में भी बात कर सकते हैं, तमे गुजराती में भी बात करी सको छो. Marathi I don't know, but Malini knows, and please feel free to share your feedback with us.
There's one more: not controlling overcome versus adopting a healthy lifestyle, where you monitor the outcomes, how to reconcile.
I think the person meant not controlling outcomes versus adopting a healthy lifestyle. I think that's what probably the person meant.
The question is more on those. Sir, for everybody, the definition of health is different. Like, I can still eat ice creams every day and still be healthy, by trying to see that I take a gap and I can start eating it. What I'm trying to mention is that whatever you do, it's very important that you need to be comfortable with whatever you are doing. And at the same time, you're also not putting a kind of an expectational, conditioning with those things, right? So let's say even if I'm trying to reduce my weight, or even if I'm trying to give up something, you need the compassion which we talked about for self is very important, and I need to practice it according to those areas and see what is the best I can come out of that. When I give a predictable outcome, ki by the end of this year or by the end of 3 months, I'm going to be like this, then that predictable outcome, I'm not saying it is wrong, but when it doesn't happen, I also need to be aware that I can still be happy and I can still be flexible and still continue on that roadmap with few small changes, and I can still work towards it. So not getting too much binded to predictable outcomes, and also trying to work towards why this health lifestyle is important to me. What is it in it for me? Can you hear me? So basically, it's more about trying to figure out why this thing is important to you, and if something is really important to me, how much can I actually look into it, and how much can I do about it, and not getting tied up with some kind of predictable outcomes. Or even if I get tied up, I'm not feeling unhappy when certain things don't go in that particular way. So that is something which is very, very important. I would say reconcile is something that you need to do in your mind, why this is important to me and what are the benefits out of that particular thing.
Someone has asked if they could share the YouTube link. So I'll request Gracie or Ryan to please do the needful.
Yes, we'll do that.
Sure.
Trupti wanted to say something, and Hitu also had raised his hand. Any difficulty, Trupti?
I think these were the two people that asked questions, Gracie. So I think these were the ones that we answered.
Okay. No, Hitu has raised his hand.
Yeah, Hitu had, I think, asked, yes, Hitu had asked a question. And I think Trupti had asked to share the YouTube link. Yes, I think Hitu's just written that he wrote a question which has been answered. Thank you so much, Praveen, for your
Thank you. Is that all? Anything more to say?
Yes, not to postpone happiness. You're right, Praveen. I think be happy today. Okay, thank you, Tripti, Praveen, Hitu, and I think a couple of people who sent in some good, nice comments. reminding us not to postpone happiness, reminding us that we need to introspect from time to time, being happy in the present moment. That's my takeaway. It was an amazing experience, a wonderful session. Thank you so much for your time and for being here today. And like I think a couple of you have said, we hope that, these are your takeaways and you've been able to, gain some insights from today's session. So I think Malini and I have really enjoyed having you as our audience. And we look forward to doing maybe, I think, some sessions going forward in the future in maybe 2021 itself. So over to you, Malini, if you'd like to just give a closing word, and then probably over to Ryan and Gracie.
We can't hear you, Malini.
You're muted, Malini.
Again, we talked about happiness. It was really, and a very happy experience even for us, and definitely I think it's going to be in a kind of a memory for us also to do this session. And as I mentioned that there's just one thing that happiness begins right now and in my mind. So these are two things which are very, very important, that at all moments I can be happy, and it is just there in our mind to be happy, and to create that happiness within us or within that particular situation. So with this thought, I would just say that take that control to create that happiness in your life in different ways, so that this year is a bit different, and we are trying to look forward to different things in this year on a different way. So over to Ryan, sir.
Ryan, are you there? Okay, hi friends. Very good evening to you all. Maybe you would like to hear more from Malini and Nilofar in coming sessions and learn more in depth on the subject. They have briefly taught us a lot on the one word happiness. We now have a lot of food for thought and would work on the various things learned to help us live with high degree of happiness which comes from within. On behalf of PCAS, HRD committee and all participants, a very big virtual applause to Malini and Nilofar. And this applause is to express our gratitude. We also thank the BCAS staff and each of you participants. If I have left out anyone, I'm sorry. In spite of the deadline, each of you were present here. Thank you. Our next meeting will be on 2nd Tuesday of coming month.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you again soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Gracie, and wish you all a very good evening.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.